The recording has started.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Luke Grant, and welcome to the Tuesday, November 24th meeting of the Water and Sewer Department. We're going to just go around the table, and I already set out Luke Grant. Steve Bishop, Water Commissioner. Frank Fornia. Very good.
Steve Peterson, Weston and Sampson.
Yes.
Tara McManus, Weston and Sampson.
Hello, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, doing good.
Glad to hear your voice.
Doing good.
We're going to start with Superintendent Updates, please. Go ahead, Frank.
All right, thank you. So I'll talk about a few of the vacant positions that we have and had here in town. The former position is still one of the vacancies we have. It has been posted in the appropriate union. There were not any interested parties from that union, so it has been posted externally. Applications will continue to be received until the position is filled. They will begin review possibly as early as the 30th of this month. Happy to say that we actually were able to fill the assistant super position that's been vacant for some time. We were able to move and promote the gentleman from within, and the board of select persons and the town manager took my request, reviewed it, and felt it was an appropriate appointment, and that was effective as of their meeting on the 12th of this month. So that position went to John Harrow. I believe you guys have already met him on a short-term basis. We hope to have the vacancy on the former position filled. Currently, right now, it's being filled temporarily by one of our senior staff. He plans to actually possibly retire within less than a year. So I don't believe his interest will be in that position. And I don't know if it would be in the best interest for the town to fill a position for a short term, knowing that his retirement is upcoming.
What's the exact position?
It is water and sewer foreman. That is the vacant position. Yeah, we filled the assistant superintendent position. We jump across to hydrant flushing. We are still flushing, thankfully, because it's during the day. We're able to utilize good weather and continue at a blistering pace. At the beginning of this, I think remember that I mentioned, didn't think we were going to even come halfway through, and we're probably now 80 to 95% done with the town. We did have to actually venture outside of a few of our areas that were posted and isolated. There was an unaccounted for flow of water in the East Main Street area, particularly actually it was 274 East Main, the apartment complex. We had received calls early in the afternoon from a resident at 274 complaining that the water was absolutely disgusting, black. They'd never seen it that bad. They've lived there for a few years. Obviously, concerning calls, but we haven't gotten any in quite some time. So we had multiple crews actually go to the area. I stopped flushing through where they were, had them verify the gates that I had told them to isolate, make sure that I didn't make a mistake. Thankfully, the valves and everything were holding. They were isolated correctly, and unfortunately, it was due to unauthorized sprinkler flow that was performed. There were 8 tests that were performed at this complex. Every single one of their buildings, one of those buildings was flowed. When our guys responded, they could tell that there was discharge from the buildings. We did have pictures taken. Basically, the mulch and everything was blown out into the parking lot, and that was prior to any of our flushing. So we knew something was going on. Really wasn't quite sure of what. There was nobody around to speak to at the time. So we went through, we did our normal procedure. We flushed every hydrant in the facility. All ran clear within a very short period of time. Guys come back here, reported to me what they had found, how quickly it cleared. I spoke with the fire department that day to see if they had responded to any calls, and we just missed it on the two-way communication radio. They verified they did not respond to anything there. We had a lengthy conversation, myself and the fire chief, about obviously the bad things that could have happened, and that we need to get to the bottom of who weren't approved by the department or by the fire department. The following day, we actually had technicians back down there again to speak with people in the office. We were told that by a worker that he took around a company, a fire suppression company, and performed the test as he was ordered to by that corporate office. We have multiple calls and emails between the water and the fire department to the corporate office and to the fire suppression company that handles that facility. They are actually not a local company, so they may not be well aware of the rules and regulations of the town, although I believe they are probably very similar in every town.
I would say that Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mansfield wants to know if you're dumping thousands of gallons of water.
Correct. Yeah, they provide
Documented.
unaccountable water plus potential impact to the system and our customers.
Right.
And so people generally set up appointments to this such form, and so we can monitor it and we can repair an issue if it arises in or notify.
Yep. If I notified at the same time to properly give the quality.
Correct. And as they did it there, so we were in the middle of our flushing program, as Frank said, and they did those numbers aren't accurate with shutting the valves off, and their numbers aren't worth anything. Right. They're not accurate at all.
The testing is very important. The information that's provided goes to not only the fire department, copies of it here, and it goes to their insurance companies, so they can see if there's any differences in the infrastructure, or usually it'll tell you if you have a pump system, if you have damage or wear happening on your pump.
Right.
If you have all known factors, it gives you a nice direction to look in. If you have an impeller that's going bad on a pump or something, or a discharge valve, so there's many things that happen over the course of the year when you're doing a test. Aside from the water quality issues that you deal with, the drops in pressure, the unknowns. I mean, if we were sampling, there's a good chance it would have given us false readings on our samples that we may have been chasing for a while if we didn't know this actually happened. There's a snowball effect, unfortunately, that happens when something happens to your system that's not approved or scheduled. So I know we have limited things in the rules and regulations as far as for unauthorized water use. I know we talked about rules and regulations and possibly amending some of them in the very near future. We do have a tamper fine that's in there for unauthorized use of a hydrant. It's pretty similar. It's still unauthorized use of water. So that definitely could be implemented for each unit moving forward. At the bare minimum, this needs to be a learning experience. For not only
What's the fine for hydrant?
they have $300 per hydrant for unauthorized use.
You know what? Let's fine them $300. Maybe if there were 8 buildings, I mean that's a little excessive. I mean I don't think it is really, but if I could give them the 20% benefit of the doubt chance they didn't know, let's fine them $300 and at least my 2 cents and basically bring them to the principal's office. I don't really want you to have to deal with them personally, but I would send triplicate emails to fire chief, the insurance company, the fire test company, corporate headquarters of whoever manages 274, and I'm tempted to go 300 per offense going back, but we didn't catch them because I would like results of all the tests that they've done since the building was completed, 5 or 6 years ago. How long was it before we sat at our table here? We all have good old time. It's gotta be 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
I would say you're very close on that number, yeah. At least 5, if not.
But we want copies of their prior reports and tests, because not only would it show us who did it and when, but the results, and we compare it by our own stuff and just make sure going forward that A, corporate knows, B, the fire department knows, and C, that it doesn't happen again. Because we're in a drought, I mean, we're coming out of it, but there's a whole host of things that really miss going wrong, and they don't really care. They need their test, and I get the fact that they need their test, but if they don't ask the proper questions, I can't let them see.
And we've been pretty good about telling people, the public, about when we're gonna be freshened so they can be ready. They didn't know this was going on. I heard a lot of it.
Each of our last 3 meetings, we've had a little segment about, you know, the tests that have been going, the scheduling. We made another one. We're going to wait a week to do the next one. I suppose corporate isn't listening to our meetings or looking for our minutes, but it's just a simple courtesy to say, hey, we're going to go out for a ton of water, and how do you feel about this? You know, I got to think of any other, you know, if they're going to shut the power off to the complex or change this or that to 7 o'clock with a utility supplier of that nature. I'm a little hurt that you can tell me, man. I'm not feeling the 274 love, and I don't want to make it prohibitive, but I think they need a good solid slap on the wrist and a little email chain of, oh my goodness, we're not going to do this.
No, exactly.
And I don't know how to, is it possible to blanket everybody who has sprinklers?
I think it might be time to send out some type of letter reminding the customers.
Yeah, and that's why I email, letter, follow up with a response. I don't know that we want to spend the money on a return receive request, but something to the effect that the undersigned management company owner, blah, 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 will, in accordance with your rules and regs, chapter and verse, abide by said rules, and not so much for the money penalty, but for the community cooperation, for the system integrity that we all have come to enjoy. Nice clean water is good, but you can't continually have it if people are dumping willy-nilly all over town.
I mean, luckily, and you know, we have the
And willy-nilly is a technical term.
That was his name. Get that spelled correctly in the minutes. Yeah. You know, there were, you know, you could go on and on about the things that could have happened. Thankfully, none of them did. You know, it was handled quickly by the department. It was explained quickly to the resident that called at 274. Even she was unaware that the testing was going on.
Right.
She's a resident there.
Yeah.
You know,
They don't know.
They had no clue. They should have been notified.
Yeah.
As is part of our requirement, you know, public notification. And it would just be common courtesy if corporate knew that they were being scheduled, they had an agreed upon date to notify their residents, you know, in their own complex. So it's a horrible situation every way around. I know the fire department has been discussing what potential fines they could impose for the sprinkler company that was in there doing the work without proper permits. That's totally separate from anything that we're going to impose on them. Moving forward, I think sending the letter out to all the companies that are involved, not only stating the requirements, reminding them of things, but also asking for the contact information. So people change hands quite a bit, or you know, whether it be the sprinkler company has changed or the owner of the company has changed. You know, having those numbers available so that you know, we're not scrambling around. Unfortunately, with COVID, a lot of people are closed, as their office was closed or minimum staff. We couldn't find anybody. But to have these numbers readily available, or even email contacts to reach out, you just want to have that connection with these people with those type of properties. You know, I'm sure most of it may just be redundant, and it may be the same people. But if we don't check, we don't know.
If we get one more little list, I think it's time well spent. Because the downside we all know is a real bad main break or water.
Right. I mean, there's upcoming work that's going to go on out on East Main Street for the relocation of some of the larger pipes up in 16-inch and the 12-inch. And if that was isolated, I'm sure running sprinkler or running pump test would have had catastrophic repercussions for the system, even as clean as it is. So if you shut it down low enough, you're going to have some problems. And, we don't need any of that. It affects everybody in a negative way. Us publicly with publicity.
Right.
We finally actually, the black eye started to go away. And we've actually heard a couple compliments from people. I can't believe you guys are flushing there today. I didn't have any discolored water. Any calls that you wouldn't have got before. Right. The water's great. It smells a little bit like chlorine, but yeah, that's telling you that's coming from the treatment plant. Right. Your pipes are clean. It will go away. It's wild. So it's impressive to see the turnaround that we've made in a short period of time. We still have strides to go, and with hopefully getting everybody on board and keeping everybody aware of what's going on. We'll get there. I know there's nothing in the rules and regulations. I don't know if we could ever put anything there about requiring local companies to work locally. This company, I believe, is actually out of Watertown.
Yeah.
So, but
I don't think it's a regional thing. I think the state of Massachusetts, or globally, even in Rhode Island, if you are that's the company, I can't see the upside to excluding certain contractors. I just think, if I take it to my own small residential construction level, a plumbing contractor working on a house we call the plumbing inspector. So if you in turn are doing a fire sprinkler test, you're either going to call the fire department or the water department to talk about what you actually need to do. And one department would obviously mention the other, and you'd find out pretty quickly within 15 or 20 minutes of a phone call what you needed to do. They just never made it.
exactly.
And that is the thing we needed to start. So, I don't see it being just our little hamlet here. I think it's probably every single department would want to know if you were messing with the hydrant or that volume of water without supervision first, and then where to do it, how to start, and when. I think we have the marching orders on that, and we'll give them the sternest principles forward you can, Frank. Don't hold back.
That will happen. We continuing with flow testing. We actually had a sprinkler test that we were going to schedule that same week. We decided because it was too close to the Thanksgiving holiday with the potential for a disturbance, we put it off, and that's actually been scheduled now on December 4th, 10 a.m. This is for 176 South Washington, which is the old Mazda building that people might remember. There's some questions. The fire pump there runs flawlessly. They actually have a fire loop around with designated hydrants. There are some questions about some of the hydrants and if they're on or off the loop. So they're going to perform a pump test and utilize the pump to flow their hydrants for insurance purposes and determination. So they make sure that they're tagged accurately. So we have the information correct and the fire department has it correct. So we don't expect impacts to the system, but again, being extra cautious.
Do they have a tank connected to the pump out there, or is it pump to enhance the system pressure?
That enhances the system pressure directly off the main.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, no tank there to buy them any time there. They have a 10-inch feed that comes into the pump. They can move a significant amount of water. So, we'll put that on. That'll be again December 4th, 10 a.m. We'll take care of that. Like I mentioned earlier, the timing could have been worse. We are starting to work a little bit more with the contractor for the state job on East Main Street, K.I. Resendez. They've been out installing drainage manholes, doing some exploratory digs to find out basically exactly what's in the ground. Some of the plans we have are from 1973, and prior to that, we're told that Mass DOT owned a section of that roadway. So there's some plans that overlap that show some structures that may or may not still be there, paved over. So the contractor's going out doing some exploratory digs, and so far everything is accurate on the plans, which is very good to hear. Sometimes we get the plans that are in there that say as built, and when they're that old, you can't always take them word for word. So
They never made it out of the engineering office to check the as-built. They never made it to confirm the numbers.
right, they made some field changes and it didn't make it to final print. That's usually what ends up happening. As we move into December, they will be doing some work. They'll actually require shutdown, a few sections of pipe there that we talked about. They have to relocate the water main in, I believe, 3 or 4 different areas because the elevation is the same elevation as the drainage structures. So that'll be coordinated with the town. We're going to try and do it in between samples, in between flow tests, pressure tests, well work, get everything done. We know there's going to be some changes in flow. It's inevitable. You start messing with the transmission mains.
We can go around as far as hearing.
Basically, we're going to divert the water. There'll be a section that will be shut down. The first shutdown, the way it is tentatively scheduled, would be from Washington to 495 on East Main Street. Because there are two mains there, and homes are tied off the main that they're closest to. Most of the time, yeah, a few of them have been updated. Only half of the homes would be out of water for whatever given time it takes to replace and relocate the water main that's up there. As they continue and go the opposite way on East Main Street, the section from North and South Wash heading back towards the college is a little bit larger section, a little bit more involved. We have the gates out there, we have the valve exerciser machine out there, we have isolated those areas. And,
Do we need any valves, more valves, when they move the pop one in while they're there?
there will be additional valves added to the 16-inch out there as part of this upgrade project, as well as additional hydrants. They want to get the drainage infrastructure work done first. As they move closer to the Rumford River, the drainage actually goes a little bit deeper. So they will actually be working under some of the piping that's there. Again, still going to require a shutdown, possibly not a large relocation, but either way, it's going to be an impact on the system, and it's going to take quite a bit of coordination between AR's and the department to make sure that happens and that there's adequate staff on hand to make sure the isolation is there. I mean, the old main that's out there is from the late 50s. That's the cast iron main. There's no guarantee that those valves are going to hold or how well they're going to hold. That can't be dismantled and taken away until everybody's tied over to the new main. So it's going to be a challenge. You know, they're aware of the age of the structure. They're aware of the soil materials that are out there. After doing a few test digs, and they seem confident they'll be able to work with their permit and the DOT section of 495. And I believe the town is going to allow them to work very similar to what the DOT regulations are for road closures during the winter. Those steel plates, no uneven trenches, similar to what GVC was able to do last winter. It's progress. It's going to be a long project. You know, hopefully we don't see many negative impacts from it, but time will tell. And the directors will be working that between some of the sampling. December is actually one of our busier months. Within the first 2 weeks in December, we will be collecting somewhere in the ballpark of 120 samples throughout the distribution system, some of which are actually lead and copper samples that will be being distributed to particular homes that are chosen by DEP based on age and plumbing structure, as well as the schools and daycares. With COVID, the schools and daycares weren't done the previous round. So this round, we sent out reminder letters to them and also to the residents to make sure they're aware of the flushing procedures that need to be done prior to these samples being taken, so that the sample is as accurate as possibly can be, to avoid additional work and cost. Unfortunately, if the sample comes back bad and as a result of improper flushing the day or two before, you know, DEP can actually put a regulation and say, well, now we believe it's your fixture, and we're ordering you to replace your fixture, especially if it's a school or a daycare. It has happened in the past. And, you know, the sample result came back poor. They resampled after following the flushing technique that is provided in the letter that goes out with the bottle. And the sample, it was a perfect sample. So it was an error. Whoever took the sample didn't follow the correct protocol. And the same thing goes with filling out the bottles in the paperwork.
So you just scoop some water up from the bottom of the tank. How hard is it?
It's really not just it's called the first draw sample.
Right.
You know, basically they want the water to be unused 6 hours prior to the sample.
Wow.
And the bottles are very small in size because the sample is actually representative of the home or the business that is taken. It is not a sample of the distribution system. And the reason for that is they want to see potential for the lead and copper that's leaking from the fixtures or from the solder joints inside each one of these particular locations. And that determines if your level is within the safe range. So, you know, they are very important. They're one of the few samples that are as important as they are that we do not physically handle ourselves, because there is no possible way of verifying when you sign your name on that paper that you know that the water was off, that the flushing technique was done correctly. So it could have a major impact on the results if the protocol isn't followed. So those will be going out, November 30th. We'll be dropping those bottles off with anticipation of picking them up the next day. Sometimes people's schedule don't work so good, and we'll pick them up a couple days after. Get those into DEP as quickly as possible. One more thing off the list, and we could possibly even move up the work on East Main Street, providing our samples are done within the time frame that we're looking to do.
Okay.
Everything also on East Main is weather dependent. So thankfully we've had wonderful weather. And, I think it's going to carry on as it did last summer. Last winter, it felt like summer. And I don't think we'll see anything big around here until January or February, which is fine with me. Let's jump over to sewer. We had a Zoom meeting probably about a month ago with the gentleman and his company that actually owned the subdivision off of Newland Street, known as Turtle Crossing. This project has been in the works for as long as I've worked here, which is 20 years. And I know it's kind of been kicked down the road a few different times for multiple different reasons. And it sounds like they are interested in moving forward once again. On the Zoom meeting, we had all the departments in town. Each one of them has their own specific requirements that this person has to get reissued or re-permitted. The problem that I see is in 2000, when it started, the sewer station that's down there, which is the Knollwood Station, the only sanitary sewer going to that building was the Knollwood area, the K Street area off of Newland. Since then, we've added numerous sewer connections to that, and that pump station is at capacity, if not exceeding capacity.
Well, it's a simple,
high flow event.
request / demand that we authorize a full test of the Knollwood station by Western Sampson, and require any substantial increase in flow or upgrade to that plant to be formed by the developer.
That, no, but when 274 East Main came on, they provided two large pumps.
Same size pumps. They were new pumps that went in. They're 4-inch pumps that are there. They were replaced with new pumps. Right now, the other day, with everything that's on right now, our pump cycles are every 4 minutes at that station. You don't have time to get a pump truck there if you had a
If I
failure.
remember correctly, the issue out there was the wet well. You need to make
The wet well is
I'm saying, well,
yeah.
the whole event,
I did a whole analysis on
Right.
it. Probably happened.
Yeah.
now I'm just saying, if I remember the rules correctly regarding the 40Bs, if our infrastructure can handle more capacity, that's okay. If our infrastructure is working at capacity, any increased capacity shall be borne by the impacted, or the party impacted the system, which is that development. So as 274 updates the pump, 4 minutes is a tight, pretty tight turnaround, but we know the stuff's not going septic, it's moving.
Right.
That's kind of good. There's no lag time and no time for anything else to happen. It's just moving, it's working. Working hard. But if just one more drop gets put in by a foot to that size, or they're gonna have to do the whole system, the whole station.
Yeah, it's definitely going to require major structural improvement, whether it be looking at upgrading those 4-inch pumps to 6-inch pumps, which would match the discharge pipe from that wet well.
Right.
My concern would be what the wet well capacity is under a high flow event. If for some reason we had a power surge or spike, enough that the backup generators didn't come on, and we do see it, not common, but we do see it once in a while. You get a surge, it's not enough to drop the main power out, so you have a lag. Now your wet well is filling up, regular power comes back on, all the pumps start going at once, and you get a deluge. I don't know if the actual capacity of that wet well could handle everybody coming in at once.
Right.
Not even worrying about this station adding to it.
It feels like it isn't, and with the needs of that station and its original design and intent, I think it certainly warranted a little bit of a review, and more likely than not, an upgrade by that developer.
Right. So we've played phone tag for a month now, trying to get back and forth and actually have a discussion about it.
Just go direct, get their email, don't need to put your arm around these folks and talk to them at home. Just get their email, tell them what they need to do. Just so it's clear, and on our side, you have a nice clean paper trail of what you emailed and exactly what transpired. And you can just say by this very systematic discussion at our board meeting, we remember that there was a reason studying that station specifically, and they did that capacity. Any further load on the station shall be borne by that party impact station in our community.
Very good. Actually, at that very same station, working probably within the next month, you're going to see my 5-year capital plan coming through as a request. And one of those will actually be upgrading the sewer generator at that Millwood station to a larger capacity generator. And the one that's there now is aged. It works. I know Steve and I had talked about this before. Some of the smaller stations getting looked at after our top street goes through. I'm not sure if we want to wait on this one. After seeing the changes in what we've had here after the Glen was turned on, and 274, that 4 minute is a little concerning.
Those pumps are working.
They're working, and the backup system there is actually, I'm sure you know well, a Wisconsin engine.
Nice.
It does not generate electrical power. It actually is a pulley system that drives the motor and pumps it in an antiquated way, but it works.
Yep.
Right. But you have to only have one pump when you're on back.
Okay.
That's just not kosher. Not with the impact we've had in our system, and knowing
If we work around that thing for 8 hours, do a random test, the generator.
Well, the generator runs flawlessly.
Okay.
My concern is that it only powers one of the pumps at the facility, and there are 2 there.
Yep.
So in the event you had a failure, clog, or you couldn't maintain, under normal street power, the second hour would come on, and it would take care of the wet well. Not knowing, the capacity, again, as we keep talking about capacity of it, if that failed, you were very limited on how much time you had to react. A new generator that's there that would power both pumps electrically instead of by the pulley system and a belt, you'd be controlled. It is kind of
in the case, right?
it is. I mean, we've joked about the sewer system and how antiquated it is. And thankfully, knock on wood, it hasn't been very problematic. But
Well, I will say that as long as they're maintained, the Wisconsin is bulletproof. It's super simple. The parts are available. It's hilarious, but I'm not saying we want to rely for the next 20 years on something like that. But I wouldn't mind bringing that up into the conversation.
we could also have that spec out so that it could handle larger pumps. If that is something we're looking to do down the road.
Certainly do a plan.
Instead of dropping a 50 kW there, that'll handle the 2 4s. We can go to 70.
Even a nice close material work will get us there.
It's very costly.
You know what I mean? They're gonna redo that. That's fine.
It's definitely something to start talking about.
Right.
Not something I want to keep on the back burner. Some of our other stations we could actually hold off on.
Okay.
This one here and Top Street, I would say, are the 2 hearts of the system that you just don't want to avoid. Like that, actually go right over to Top Street now. We met with Steve and a few other members. I believe it was last week, or maybe a little longer than that, at Top Street to discuss the infrastructure improvements there. Still waiting to hear back. There's some discussion going on about replacing the generator that's in place. It's a Cummins powered unit, very similar to the one that we have at one of our water pumping stations that we can't get parts for. Now, it's not the motor that's the part problem, it's the gear drive accessories on the front of the motor that was specifically designed for the power plant application. The Cummins motor, you're going to find it in every bus, truck, boat, anything you can think of, it's the accessory drive that's on the front. Depending on who the manufacturer was for the electrical unit, changed what you had for a gear drive accessory on the front. When the motor, I believe it's cable light, is the generator power that we have at our water treatment, the water holding station, they went out of business when they're purchased by another company, all the parts become obsolete and are all, anybody that has them, double them up. They know how valuable they are. So we have one that's on there now that has a crack in the gear drive in the front. Still operational. It's not going to get any better. It's not a part that can be replaced. So you either have to look at having something fabricated, bringing in somebody that can weld upside down and sideways, exactly, or do something, temporary, like a JB weld or something. And as much as that's a joke, that's kind of what you run into with something that's 30 years old, and they have very low hours.
Yep.
And now you're back against the wall. You're going to spend a ton of money to replace this thing because a few parts are obsolete. We run into the same situation I'm trying to get clarification on for our Top Street unit. Beautiful generator. It's only failed due to weather conditions that happened, believe it or not, inside the building. During one of the blizzards, the louvers that are open to cool the motor hold in the blizzard. And there was enough moisture and snow inside that it actually caused water damage to some of the electrical components. And we were down there jumping out wires, getting it to go, because it's old school. You can get away with it.
Right.
New technology wouldn't allow that, so not only do you have to upgrade the generator, you'd have to upgrade the structure to make sure that the weather stays where the weather belongs. Again, 30 years old, doesn't have a ton of hours on it, but if parts are going to be a problem, let's pull the trigger and say we're replacing it.
Yeah.
So I still have not heard back from the contractor that we have a service contract with. I want to speak to their lead technician who works on it, and I just want to pull some ideas and say, hey, what if I need a water pump right now?
Right.
What's the lead time? Something you can't run it without. Anything that's detrimental to it. I want to know that those parts are readily available, and it may ease my mind to say, yeah, maybe we can nurse this thing along for 5 or 10 more years. But again, it's 30 years old already.
Right.
I know we had talked about this a little bit. This is most of we really had a conversation about it.
Sometimes in the event where there are reasonably priced items, a lot of pump stations, if it's available to get a new one or a new old stock one, the purchase it, shelf it, maybe wrap it in plastic, a couple of wax papers and some oil so it preserves what it is. Same thing with the gaskets, with an appropriate, archaeological that one before you can't. And I have first-hand knowledge with our primary brand is Caterpillar, but we prior to a 1963 road grader, we had a 1947 road grader, which was our only road grader, and I'm telling you, they're great. You just got to have the tricks that they need. And not as high priority as a generator, but if you can go ahead and get something you can anticipate, the problem with it was the water pump, $500, not even. It wouldn't hurt in the big picture of things. I just know retrofit, like you said, and Cummins is the world. All they do is it. So they're everywhere. It's wild. Somebody hasn't jumped on the retrofit, rip the front of the conversion off and just power place the thing and go out. Put a different electrical generator on it.
Yeah, we're a little bit at the mercy of the professionals. They're also in the business to make money and sell generators.
Right.
They're going to work with what they have, and I don't think they're going to go out of their way to locate parts.
Right.
If their supply warehouse or whoever they speak to says, oh, it's not available, I don't see them bending over to say, hey, let me call my buddy who might have one of these laying around, and I can mark it up $100.
Right.
Where
The new old stock theory.
right. It doesn't work that way, and I'm looking for peace of mind. I want to be able to sleep at night and know that whatever's in place there is going to function. You're not going to get that call in the middle of the night.
You're sleeping better than you used to, Frank. In the beginning, you were the deer in the headlights. You didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Come on now, tell us.
You're exactly right.
You kind of hold it down quite a bit. I'm proud of you.
We've made some improvements. I'm glad to have the support of the board behind us to do it. There's still quite a bit to do.
It's fortunately a very physical thing, so you can look at it, the crew can look at it and say, this is something that needs some attention. It's, every every improvement is like we're saying, a 30 or 50 year thing. So you think that we're replacing a 30 years old, so we're going to get 30 years out of them. Let's hope the technology is a little bit better, so we get 40 years. You never know.
Right. Now, there was another...
It reminded me, I didn't say it at the most recent town meeting, but none of us, myself included, would ever imagine when we were rehabbing the high school and built that beautiful track and infield and football practice field or whatever it was we were sitting on, that we would hold a town meeting there after a flood. We had 2 inches of rain, 2 inches of water. Wiggins got it.
Right.
All right, Wiggins. I have, knee-high rubber boots for my construction site. So I'm like, man, I'm going to throw them in the truck just in case it's a quagmire. That field was high and dry. And again, nobody, engineers included, any of us, ever thought that we would be having a town meeting on that field. But I guess I'm leading into a house of prevention and a found a cure kind of thing. If you get you don't know when you're going to need the generator, but you know you're going to need it at the least opportune time. So you are assess and diagnose, and we'll deal with it.
Yep, that's exactly where we're at now. Hopefully we'll get some information back that is promising. It'll be easier to make the determination to pull the trigger if it is time to replace. One of the other options that was talked about from our lead sewer technician, who is extremely frugal. He has worked here as long as I have. It's a good baby. He loves the station. He's been, for lack of better terms, intimate with it at many times. Knows it in and out. And the option came up to actually have a tow-behind unit large enough to supply power to those with the twist lock system on the outside with the throw switch, not actually replace the unit that's there until it really fails. That unit would be large enough to supply power to 2 of our stations, and obviously could be retrofitted to run other stations if we had a failure at a well, similar to what's going on down at Well 4 right now.
I can go with everything.
So
How we need it.
that might be something, as an option. I mean, I don't know what the cost would be. I'd have to price it out. Again, it's another thing that is going to need maintenance, but you have options to use it at will at other locations with minor improvements to those stations. Our Greatwood station, which is off of Mansfield Power, if they lose twice a year, it's incredible, and they're out for a short period of time.
Mansfield, was their crew and their place of line doesn't lose power for 5 minutes.
Right.
And I would like to say it's Gary DeAmber, but he's long since retired. But they do a heck of a job over there. I think it's the crew and the small area that they serve. I mean, the Eversource or whatever, the National Grid or whatever, they're definitely a bigger zone, but you don't lose power again. Not for too long.
Not for very long at all.
If you're more than 10 minutes, I think there'd be a mass exit.
That's right. So that's just one of the things we kind of tossed around, is maybe not replacing that permanent structure if parts are available, but looking at a secondary backup.
I like the tow behind for a number of reasons.
There's multiple applications that can be used.
Because the scanner would tell you that the generator needs to be hooked up. We need help, and then all it is a relay to a guy, and screw it close and plug it into that one. And fingers crossed, don't lose both at the same time. Or you just get a heck of a long cord.
So it's not a permanent solution, but it could be a lower cost option.
Well, it gets you by in at some point, that one should be set up as a generator.
But definitely a few things to look at. The age of the sewer system is showing everywhere. It's not just these 2 primary stations that I talk about often. So the other stations will be looked at.
The problem is most of the stations you're talking about are all done at once.
They're all, very similar.
It's all the same.
All those stations flow into Pop Street, so that is ultimately
That's working hard.
that's the heart of the system. I know Steve will have a little bit to talk about what we went over. There's definitely some work that needs to be done there in the wet well structure. Some electrical work, lighting work. There is some highly corrosive atmosphere down there that's caused damage. I think I might have showed you guys pictures over a year ago of some of the stuff that's going on down there. There have been,
You didn't cure itself?
sorry, it did not cure itself, but believe it or not, we did actually do some in-house improvements on some of the electrical issues we had with some water getting into conduits. They were actually giving us false readings on flood alarms. So we had multiple responses with wake up the drive going there, hoping to open the door and not find something. And it was just a short. We were able to fix that with
gremlin, yeah.
temporary repair. That would be something that would be addressed in the upgrade. But that's about all I got right now. I don't keep blabbing about that. A lot of work to be done.
No, well, thank you very much. We'll move over to Steve.
Yeah, I guess we'll stick on wastewater. So, yeah, for Top Street, we are in the contract to design some upgrades to that. The heart of those upgrades right now is replacing the biggest cost item from a construction standpoint. Design isn't a huge deal, in general terms. So, we do need to know if we're going forward with that before we get too far down the road on putting our plans together. We want to use a different thing and apply maybe the money that you have appropriated differently out there. We just need to do, and like I said, in the end, you got to have something reliable.
You're right. We want what's best and
You don't want
to last.
to do an emergency generator. Just be an emergency situation where you need it. If you can avoid. That's how we're there. You mentioned the lighting in the wet well. We're going to spec some LED lighting and replace the lighting as well as all the lighting in the pump station building and the outside. So a lot of electrical upgrade work as well as cleaning up some of the conduit that has experienced water damage when you have them. It looks like the leak has been solved. And now it's just a matter of cleaning up and pulling out some of the old conduit and cleaning up the wall. So we're moving on that. So that's what I mean. You pretty much covered Top Street there. So on West Main Street, they're almost done paving. Honestly, I'll tell you they were done, but we're down to like 600 feet of roadway left that needs that permanent trench paving. We got some weather. We probably would have been done. We lost a couple of days between last week and this week. Yesterday was torrential.
Yesterday was awesome.
They did not pave. They did. They had the machine fired up. My guy Ryan. What are you doing? The head stop raining in it.
Did they have on that?
No hammer. No hammer. There's a lot of ripping. Ripping out the, yeah. So, we've had a couple issues since the last meeting. We had the crew sneak out onto the road before we agreed upon 8:30 start time. Generated a lot of emails on having people. So the school buses got caught up in it. And they were pushing the envelope. I know what they were doing. They knew they weren't supposed to be out there. They hopped out at like 8:10, and that extra 20 minutes is too much. We needed. We've been started at 8:30, and it's been working. Traffic's still crazy before 8:30 without us out. So that happened, but we seem to get through it. There also have been some complaints about the quality of the paving. I think most of it about the stuff that needs to be replaced, but there were some specific concerns about the replacement paving that's been put in. Fire department had expressed any concerns. Mass DOT has been out, driven the site. There was some concern, that we might get shut down, and they were, no, it's not the final. The final trench patch is not perfect. It's bumpy. But it's plowable.
Yeah, I've driven it. You need the patch properly. You need a ride in the patch so when it settles a little bit, it's going to be even. If you leave it even and smooth, and you have to for the first week, it's going to cave, and you got to get a Grand Canyon by the end of the winter. So,
Well, they had some issues with their paving equipment for a portion of that, right?
They are, so they have rented paving equipment. they're paving themselves,
Yep.
which they did on Tottenham last
Yeah,
year for the trench paving.
Yeah.
So they're not, experts at it. They're not a paving contractor, but any contractor. Paving, so they're doing it.
Are they doing the final too?
So no, they have, I stubbed that out, they did before, and they will again, final.
Okay.
But they've been renting a paver, and, you know, it seems like every day they're whacking it with hammers and wrenches because it's not working. So they're struggling to keep it up. Anyway, they're down to the stretch, basically from Honeydew towards Freeman Street is the way they're working. I think they've already done like the first 600 feet or so, and another 600 feet to go. And the trench over there, most of the trench that they're doing is where they were right on the curb line. So they're right on the edge of the road. So the trench is really wide. One thing we did run into, and then we'll see it in the pay recs, is their trenches with all the hammering and the depth and the issues they had got wider than the typical trench. And then with their 1 foot cutback, the edges got pretty jagged, so the cutback was at least a foot from any jagged edge. Bottom line is the quantity, the tonnage of paving is going over the estimated amount. It is what it is. We have to switch because the trench pavement is wider than what was written. We're tracking it. It's still within the within the overall budget amount, and we always anticipated that the tonnage may run over a little, but it's not it's just a situation where we have an estimated quantity and they get paid for the final quantity with the So we're tracking that, and that's really all that's left. And then the pump station is done. They're doing a lot of finish work. They got some work to do on the roof, a little bit of electrical work, coordination between their on-site electrical guys and the supplier of the building. It came pre-wired and everything, so now there's some coordination between the on-site guys and the guys that did the wiring back in the factory. That's supposed to be happening tomorrow. But they are looking to do, we should definitely be starting the station up in December. They will be doing, we're not going to schedule the startup until we've seen everything run in pre-startup mode. They're going to go through everything individually and make sure it's working. We'll let you know as that's going on, but ultimately, you guys, will definitely probably be invited to the formal startup when we feel that it's ready to go. They've requested substantial completion, which we will not acknowledge until the pump station, until you have occupancy of the pump station. And then they will be entitled to a reduction in payment once the pump station is up. So that's where we're at now. We should have a pay rec soon. They haven't put their October pay rec together yet. So last month you approved, last meeting you approved the pay rec for September. So I don't have it on yet. And that's one that will have significant quantity of paving. So I think that's it. So hopefully, end of the year, we've got the pump station up and running. There will still be, obviously, the final paving in the spring. We will be talking about then timing of letting people know that they can connect and timing better. Where we're at now, it's going to probably be typically something you do at this time. Sure. Yeah. If we're actually assessing the betterments, people will have the option to pay it up. Once the bills go out, they have the option to pay it up front. If they don't, on their tax bill, the first bill will be the third and fourth quarter next year. I believe that's how it is. But so anyway, that will be the next. That's it. And I know we have, I assume Kara's still on the phone. Kara gave me some paperwork that I think she's gonna go over, some stuff for signature or for votes, and discussion here. So Kara, are you still hanging on the line out there?
I am.
All right, well, you're on.
Hi, Barry.
Okay. Hey, thanks everyone. So again, Tara McManus from Weston and Sampson with an update for the water system improvements that we've been doing. So I'll start with the replacement wells 5 and 6. The driller continues to be on site. He spent another few weeks probably to go. We're hoping to finish up in the next several weeks. We've anticipated about 2 months for drilling. So we're on track. He did, as I believe Frank might have mentioned, there is a little bit of a clay lens that they're powering through. It's just a little slower than they had anticipated, but we had a little buffer in our schedule to kind of work with that. So we have, once that, hopefully the next commissioners meeting have a better idea of the completion for the drilling, but once that's all set, the next steps for post-drilling would be to analyze the soil samples, do a little well design, and determine what type of screen we need and get the screen ordered and have that delivered. So our thought right now is that we're probably looking at, pumping tests sometime end of January or so. And then we're working with the driller right now on scheduling well 6 replacement. So we did receive DEP approval for well 6 drilling. And that is, as we had anticipated, try to tandem those 2 projects together and work on well 5 first and then move over to well 6. So we're ready to go with that as soon as we finish well 5. That was good news to receive the approval from DEP. And I was probably, if there's any questions on the wells, I was just going to hop right over to some of the paperwork you guys have in front of you.
Sounds good, Barry.
Okay. So the first pay application is for Pine Street. It's the contractor that wrapped up the final trench paving probably about a month or so ago at this point now. The pay estimate includes, it's roughly about $48,500. It's only for the actual pavement installation. They're still waiting on a few police details. So this will be, the next pay estimate I receive will be the final pay estimate, which will include the police details for the paving as well as release of the 1% retainage we're holding. So I'd like to, answer any questions if you have any for KJF, the water main contractor for Pine Street.
You obviously are okay with the paving that's out there. I haven't had a chance to look at it. It seems good as finished paving.
Yep, the numbers that they added to their pay estimate are what our site inspector monitored as well. So they matched up perfectly. All the cells and all the information on that pay estimate is accurate. We're recommending payment for the $48,430.80.
I think we need that in the form of a motion.
We can make a motion to approve. Application certification for payment, the amount of $48,430.80.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
So there's 4 copies there. So there's 4 just from the top. You guys can sign tonight. We can do that after tonight.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
All right,
Okay, so I wanted to move on to the treatment plant project next. So that project, as everybody's aware, we've been working with the contractor on attempting to get all of the punch list items completed for several months now. We've been in a little bit of a stalemate, but at this point they have agreed to the change order number 3, which is one of the items that Steve does have in front of you today. We negotiated the utility invoices and also discussed the actual work that's included under that change order, which is all pre-approved work. A lot of it actually has already been completed months ago. It just was paperwork on their end, and then we had to negotiate out the credit for the utility invoices that the town's already paid. So The utility invoices are included under that change order, and so that paperwork, in our opinion, is tight. There's no concerns on our end with that. It's a total amount for the change order. I believe it is $37,496.74. And I probably make a motion if you have any questions on that before the motion occurs.
So the utility bills are included in this change order?
Yeah, so the last line item on the change order, if you flip over the first page, it's itemized the different items that are, sorry to say the word item again, but the different change order, proposed change order work that was included, and at the bottom of that list is a credit for roughly $4,800 for the utility invoice bill. So the other items on that list were items that we had completed work on months ago and or negotiated those prices as well several months ago. So I don't think there's any concerns with that. There may be some concerns on the pay estimate when I get to that next document, though.
Okay.
But certainly feel free to take some time on those if you need to.
And Luke's looking at it right now.
Okay.
You just ripped it up.
Oh, no.
It's on the back of the book.
Oh, you two sides,
Double side.
all right.
Yeah, conserving paper, sorry.
Saving trees, Sarah. I'm proud of you.
Yes.
Yeah. There's probably about 6 to 8 pages of backup for the 2 additional room signs for $400 alone. So there's a large chunk of the backup paperwork is probably a little mind-numbing. So that's why we like to put a summary table on the front with the actual total cost that were negotiated.
Yep, no, I looked at the backup. It all seems in order. And again, there's accepting the 50% of credit for the utilities.
They are accepting that, as well as installation of the ADA ramp, which was a concern of theirs prior to last meeting. So they purchased the ADA ramp. It is on site. They were going to do that work yesterday, but with the rain and the short week this week, they're postponing that until next week. They're hoping to be out there on Monday of next week to start that, weather pending. But they'll have a full 5-day work week to kind of maneuver around if need be, if the weather changes in the next few days. They also did complete the work at the recycle tank. They completed the epoxy installation last week, a 2-part epoxy installed over the course of 2 days. The intent is to watertight test that on Monday of next week. They did see some hairline fractures that they wanted to do some repair work on. I was kind of notified that after the fact, so we weren't out there to inspect that work, but the again, this is their tank to, in a sense, to repair at their own cost. So they're waterproofing. Yep.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and table it till our next meeting, and the tank results come back. They're taking their sweet time on their end, so we're gonna take our sweet time on our end. I just want to review these a little more and see what their tank results are.
Sure. So that gets us into the change, or the pay estimate that's in front of you, which I assume you'll want to review and table that as well, because it is payment for change order number 3.
Yep. I just, without the cloud, I know we have a couple of bucks, in our retainage, but, it's dragged out too long in this tank, and, I really have to stress that this is a critical component of our treatment plant facility, and, it's gotta be 100% before they get any more money.
Yep.
So I just left the change order with Frank, if you're gonna table that, and then this is the pay rec that Tara's referring to. So like just over 41,000, Tara, is what they were looking for here, which is mostly the change
Yes.
order.
There were 2 things with that, yeah. So what they had done was they, instead of applying the credit under the change order 3 to this pay estimate, they've held that back, which is another concern I know the commissioners had previously. The whole point of signing the change order was to fully pay for all of the work included under that, including the credit. So if you're tabling the change order, then we might as well definitely table the pay application number 24, and I'll also relay information back to them about the concern with having the utility invoice credit not applied to that pay estimate.
Right. It's like the Seinfeld episode where he didn't get a rental car because they didn't hold the reservation. If you take the reservation, you just can't hold the reservation. So they're good at coming up with a number for the utility payment, I guess, and then they're okay with accepting that. But if they don't credit it, in my contractor P-side brain, I feel like another negotiation, another bite at the apple, if you will, of their portion of the utilities being thrown at us at some inopportune time. They're going to have to get that together, and they're going to have the tank. I say structurally sound. That's too much for a chairman of a water sewer commission with an $11 million treatment plant to ask a statewide contractor. Structurally sound tank. When they get that, they'll get more money from all.
Understood.
And I'm happy with you. I'm sorry you had to pull these guys along, but I'm feeling thankful that we're all here and we're all relatively healthy and happy. It's just I don't think they've given us their finish up the job effort. I think their efforts are somewhere else, and we're going to show them how we feel about that.
Yep, and I think the hope was that at this meeting we'd already be able to test the tank last week or have results by this meeting. So, and as well as hopefully have the ADA ramp either started or installed. And so there's a few things that I think I can understand, and they have made some attempts to do some other work and also attempted to schedule some work for tomorrow. But in talking with the operators, it's too short notice today for doing work tomorrow with adjusting pumps and whatnot. So we're trying to reschedule that for end of next week. I agree. There could be some more effort, and it is a little late in the game for attempting to jam it all down in the last couple weeks versus the last several months that they could have done some of the work. So I'll relay that back, and I think the next steps on our end are to confirm with the operators and Frank to make sure that some of the punch list items that they've already indicated are complete are actually satisfactory, and we can continue to work with that over the next several weeks as well. So their intent was to complete all the punch list items by the end of November. That was when I discussed this with them several weeks ago, and even with a 2-day holiday week, I don't think it's I think we were still looking into December anyway, so.
Yep. And if it is, in fact, only a week or two, the impact, the hold up on payment won't impact them at all. If they can get it all done, I will appear and sign whatever it is they have in front of us. I need that tank structurally sound. They have to slide the utility bill negotiation to the proper spot. immediately. That was a timed offer. They're out of their time, and I'm not crazy enough to withdraw it, but, you know, they're not really giving us what we expected.
Yes. Okay.
But as I said, I don't want to talk about that again. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it all at once. The utility goes included, and we're not going to fight it for 75% or, oh, we really deserve the full amount, you know, later. Because if it doesn't go down and doesn't get properly credited now, I feel like they're going to bring it up at a future date.
All right. I'm just taking some notes, and I will relay that information to them.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else?
So I think I've pretty much given you an update as far as the treatment plant work goes. Obviously, there's a few of the larger ticket items that are still outstanding that we're waiting to be completed. I do have the last document in front of you is actually Weston and Sampson's amendment for the treatment plant construction project. We've got our last amendment was to extend the project through February of 2020. The current amendment that I have in front of you is to extend the project until January 2021, so that expands our project, our basically, at this point, more or less office services and part-time site inspection as needed. We're requesting an additional $36,000 to complete work this year, basically, and hope to wrap up the project by mid-January of this coming up year. So it's a total of $36,200 is the difference. The actual amount, based on the language of our previous amendments, you'll see the total is different from the 36.2. It's just we basically added the last amendment's cost to paragraph 5.5 plus $36,200 to get to the new number.
Sounds good. You've certainly earned your money coaching those contractors, Tara. I don't have a problem with this invoice. Their invoices obviously don't work right now.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, we're kind of at that point where we're post, punch list issuance, and it's a lot of negotiation. But I saw some light at the end of the tunnel in some of our discussions. I think we've, we're getting there. So I felt comfortable about providing you with an amendment at this point, and assuming they move forward with their word and we move forward with ours, and we should be wrapping up in the next month or so. It's my hope. So, and then from that point on, we'll provide. We're waiting for them to provide us with as-built for the site construction, so that we can complete our final record drawings for you as well. So that's kind of why we've expanded a couple weeks after. And obviously, if they're not doing any work, we won't be charging any time. So we're getting there.
No, I got it. It's short of grabbing wrenches and throwing them out of the way. There's nothing you can do. You've done all the list, the punch list, the repunch list, the meetings. I feel for you. It must be frustrating.
Yeah, end of a big project. Relatively typical. So, but yeah. I'd love to finish in 2020. I'm not looking into 2021. So.
There you go. That's our goal.
We have the same goal, Tara, me and you both.
We need that signature this position.
Motion to approve the amendment number 7, agreement engineering services between Town North and the Weston Sampson Engineers for the
Dicky,
the
amount.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Chief. For the amount of $36,200.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think we've covered pretty much the active projects right now. I know Frank and I need to catch up a little bit on some future projects and budgeting, but that's not necessarily needed today. So we can, if there's any questions on anything else, let me know.
I think we've got it, and you might understand that you're quarantining, so you're going to do a travel for Thanksgiving.
I'm staying in state, but relatives are a little bit older, so I'm just trying to spend 2 weeks alone and not venture out.
That's really cool. It's a good thing. I'm glad you did it. I hope it works out and the Thanksgiving is good. I wish you and everybody else here a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. And with that, if there's anything else, we have another date. Let's set our next meeting will be in holy moly December.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about time. Well, we're not done with that.
Are we doing the 8th and the 22nd? Is everything cool with the 8th and the 22nd? And with that, Mr. Bishop, I will ask your favorite motion.
One more thing, just a motion to have our new Assistant Superintendent, John Harrop, to be able to sign as needed, unauthorized signature.
Do we give him a dollar amount? What is his?
That would just authorize him to sign bills and papers in my absence.
Okay, in your absence.
Yeah.
So he's you in your absence.
Correct.
Very good. Did I sign that? You did? I think we did. So, yeah, if you want to make a motion, I'll second it.
Yep. Motion to approve John to sign bills and such for the water and sewer department in the act of Mr. Sylvia.
Sounds good. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Sean.
On that note,
Motion to adjourn, sir.
I'll second that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Good night, Mr. Wiggins.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Happy Thanksgiving, Peter.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone!
This session is no longer being recorded. Goodbye.